So I started as a student in 1991 and an athlete. And then I graduated in 93, went away for 2 years to Illinois to college. And then when I came back and went to law school, I was in law school my first year. It's either my second year or my third year, I don't remember which one, was when she went on sabbatical and convinced me that I should run the honors program for a year. Because, well, and the weird part was when I was in law school, they tell you your first year you're not supposed to work. Your second year you can work about 10 hours a week. Your third year you can work about 20 hours a week. It's just, what jobs do you get that you can work that kind of hours? And so, you know, they set me up and I worked part-time as the honors coordinator and the Phi Theta Kappa advisor. And then I graduated law school and I went away to coach in Louisiana. I was supposed to be coaching and teaching, and that teaching part never happened. So I came back in like November of 98, and I got hired here as the girls soccer coach. And then I got hired, I started teaching part-time in political science, and I was teaching here and at Chandler Gilbert. And then as she moved on to do other things, somehow we spent some time running the honors program together, which
he's trying to be diplomatic.
there were some interesting times with that. And in the middle there, then I got an opportunity while I was running the honors program, was when they were building the new administrative building. So I actually got to serve as a part-time adjunct on committees trying to refurbish the old administration building, which is where they were doing honors, to the point where we ended up part of our building built into a safe that had originally been in registration. It was a unique experience just to learn like how all this construction was going. And so I did I was teaching part-time. I was teaching part-time here and part-time at Chandler Gilbert, to the point that I was basically teaching full-time, but nobody was paying me any benefits. I was just 2 part-time jobs. So by the time I was done, I had been the Phi Theta Kappa advisor, run honors, taught political science,
Been the soccer coach.
been the soccer coach. So it was there were some times where I was putting together, and by the time they were paying me, everything was like based upon adjunct ways. So they would pay you like 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 assigned hours for this and that. And this was before the district got to, you can't work more than like 15 as an adjunct, because then you'd be considered full. I feel like maybe that rule was written for me, because there was legitimately a semester where I added it up and I had 27 and a half hours worth of equivalent job, which in their mind would have meant that I was almost working 2 full-time jobs here, and a little bit at Chandler Gilbert too. So I taught the honors forum class. I taught Arizona and U.S. constitutional law, so that a lot of people who are teachers who are trying to get certified could do, which ended up being a long story. When I went to get certified, they told me I had to take that class, and I was like, I taught it. It's unique, but yeah, it was a lot of a little bit of everything, which when I think back to kind of at that time frame for South, that was a lot of what they had to do in order to, you had this core number of people who were there full-time, fill in a large portion of it. And then you had a lot of other stuff that there was a little bit of. There was a little bit of political science to teach, but there wasn't enough for a full-time. So they found somebody, and I can remember days where I'd coach a soccer game and then I'd run over to teach my class afterwards. And remember playing Phoenix College once, and their coach was so upset he lost to us that he had his team running on the field. And I walked back out of my classroom and I looked down and they're still running on the field. And I'm like, I just taught a whole class. What are you guys doing? But it was a little bit of everything in a lot of ways. So I laugh all the time. The only other job I ever had here was I was professional office mover. Every time she moved an office, I got to move one. And it seemed like more and more stuff just gathered. And then eventually she got to the point where she had like 2 offices. And I was like, I understand why this is happening, because it won't all fit in one office anymore. But yeah, it was interesting. And, you know, and when you're doing stuff like kind of adjunct wise, and then you realize you've been here, and while you've been doing this, there's been 2 or 3 presidents while you've done it. You're like, how have I been doing this long? But the vast majority of the 90s, in one way or form, I was here. And then basically up until 2004. And 2004 is where I ended up full-time at South Mountain High School, which was ironic that I never thought I was going to teach high school. The college world would have been where I thought I would have gone if I was going to teach. And they just don't hire a lot of political science professors, so never really worked that way.